Hi guys, Squirrel here. I'm back with some Flight Simulator. Today we're going to fly across a part of Australia. So we're going to fly from Brisbane, which is over here in, in Queensland, I think? Yeah, Queensland. Down to Melbourne in Victoria. Now, Australia is absolutely massive. Let me just explain to you how massive Australia is. Just to go from Brisbane down to Melbourne, that is a 1,681 kilometre drive. Best part of 18 hours. Thankfully, we're not driving. We're going to fly there in a 737. Going to take about 3 hours to do so. But I just wanted to show you roughly where in the world we are, because, you know, if you say Brisbane and you're not from Australia, you probably don't really know where it is. But it's on the east side here, near the Gold Coast. And what I'm going to do, we're going to fly out of here. We're going to bank right out of there, and we're going to head across. So you should see the coast on our left. And then we're going to fly down to Melbourne International. Sorry, Melbourne, as they like to say in Australia, not Melbourne. Melbourne International. And the airport is approximately just northwest of the city. And we're going to come in a sort of a east to west direction. We're going to land on runway 27. Let's have a look what that looks like. On Flight Sim Commander, well, I've put the route in here. And you can see we're taking off on runway 01, which is this runway here, heading top right of your screen. Roughly 1 o'clock on a clock. And you can see at the top there, it says what our SID is. It's LAV1. So we're using SID, which is a standard departure. And you can see what it looks like when we take off. We're going to bank right fairly quickly over the sea. What I thought I'd do is I'd loop back around to try and give us a nice view of the coastline out of Melbourne. And then simply we start to make our climb. I'm going to fly at flight level 250, which is 25,000 feet. Don't want to go too high. You should really go higher for this flight, but I wanted to keep it down a bit lower so that, you know, we might have something to look at on the way. I will, of course, accelerate time. And let's just move down to our destination here. You can see as we come into Melbourne, like so, you can see what our approach is like. It's across the mainland. And then I'm using a star of BOYS 7Z. You can see my basic route here, and you can see the SID and star if you want to take this route. YBBN is the code for Brisbane. YMML is the code for Melbourne. And these are just some nav points on the way. So we're going to come in. This will be making our descent here before we make our turn for our final approach onto runway 27. There are only 2 ILS approaches at Melbourne, and we're on one of them. You can see here this kind of funnel shape. And if you've got Flight Sim Commander, by the way, you can use this Flight Sim Commander for free. It shuts down every 30 minutes, but the guys who took over it, the guy who originally wrote it, I think, passed away, and there's 2 guys who've taken over it. And I just bought it straight away. It's such a useful tool, and I wanted to support what they were doing. But that's up to you. You can use it for free. It's really cool. You can make your own flight plans with this, with the route finder. That's all I did, and then it has all the SIDs and all the stars in there. It's really cool. So we're going to come in here. This is our final descent into runway 27 at Melbourne, and then we'll let the passengers disembark. That is the plan. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we pick it up. We're at Brisbane, and we are just about to board our passengers. So let's bring this up now. FS actions. The engines are powered down for all of this. Front left opening. Aft left opening. And of course we'll want the cargo doors. So the doors are on the next page. We need to open both of those so that we can begin to load all the baggage. And the passengers are loading now. That's cool. Oh, we opened that. Yes, we did. Cool, so while that's starting up, let's jump in the cockpit and start initializing the flight management computer. Oh, we've got a frame lag there. So this is not a standard Brisbane airport. This is one I purchased. There will be a link in the video description, well, a description of what I've got. This is not a standard airport, but it does kill your frame rate, something nasty. So let's get some panel lights going here so that we can see what we're doing. Because it's 5:30 AM local time. You can see here 1932 Zulu time. Let's get the radio, let's get a little bit of floodlight going. And the panel lights, there we go. Oh, actually the radio floodlights, I don't like them very much, do you? Kind of looks okay like that, I think. Don't think we need the floodlights just yet. And overhead panel lights. If you wonder what that is here, that's a reflection from one of the lights outside. It's all very annoying. Nothing you can do. So we're on ground power at the moment, which is absolutely fine. We're not quite cold and dark, but we are certainly cold. Right, so let's start going through some initialization. First of all, first thing we need to do is posinit the whole of the flight management computer, FMC. We need to tell it where we are and so on. So we are at YBBN. YBBN. And currently, what gate did I choose? Oh, good grief. I can't remember what gate I chose. Can we see from the outside? Is there a gate number on the floor? Gate 17. Okay, we're at gate 17, that's fine. So put 17 in there. Doesn't really matter. Sometimes it doesn't even know where 17 is, that's absolutely fine. Origin, YBBN, let's load that route up. I've already made the route, so Flight Sim Commander lets you save the routes out, not just for the PMDG, but also for FSX if you don't have this particular aircraft. And also for Flight Sim Commander itself, it actually has the file. It's absolutely cool tool. But we can just load that in. That'll bring all the different points in that I showed you. Runway 01 was our runway for takeoff. Put that in there. Flight number, all important flight number. Not really. SQ1RL. Doesn't matter if you don't put that in. Activate. When you click activate, if the light shows up, you need to execute or exec that in. Okay, so now we click on departures and arrivals, and boarding is completed. That's cool. So we're departing from runway 01. If you remember, I said to you we're going from LAV1, so we'll punch that in. Right, left entry aft doors close. So basically the passengers are on board. So let's close those doors. Left. Close those doors, and while we're here, we should tell the passengers to get their seatbelts on. They can start doing that and settling down. We'll go through the rest of this. So departures, arrivals. We did the departure. Just need to do the arrival. Runway 27, ILS 27, and just checking my notes what the star was. I think it was. Oh, I've got it written down here somewhere. Checking my bits of paper. What was the star? It was BOY. Let's go to the next page. BOY S7Z runway 27. That one. Don't need a transition, so we'll exec that. That's why you have flight notes. You have to remember everything. Now our flight level, if you remember, is 250, which is 25. Oh dear, pressed the wrong button. 25. I was using the numeric keypad, and when you press number 2 on the numeric keypad, EasyDock takes that as a, oh, you want to edit your camera, so we'll not do that. Flight level 250. Reserves of 8 shall do. Cost index of 40. Doesn't really matter. Let's exec that in. Transition altitude is 18,000, which is not strictly true. That's an American setting. Outside of America, transition altitude is usually 10,000, so we'll go with 10,000. Climb rates, we'll just go for the standards there. And now we need to punch in our flaps of 5, V1, VR, and V2. And trim, calculate centre of gravity, 7.01, so we just hover over here and we should be able to set our trim. That stops us having to work too hard with the ailerons on takeoff, so we'll put that on 701. .703, that's close. Whoops. 710, 703, that'll do. Cool. That's that done. Now we just need to check the legs. If you remember, there's usually a route discontinuity no matter where you fly in the world. Always seems to have a route discontinuity. So first things first is we need to put this setting here on plan. So that shows us the plan. And you can see it looks quite good. It's pretty much what I showed you so far. Let's click on legs and then we'll step through it and just see if there's any breaks in that plan. There usually is. There's one straight away. So we'll click on buoys, click on the discontinuity there, just join it up. All we're doing is joining the brake in the route. Nothing more complicated than that. Other than that, that's it. That's a beautiful trip. That's all programmed in. Awesome. Set our altitude, flight level 250. Like so. Our speed, now where do we get our speed from? We get our speed from our takeoff, which was, takeoff was on 145. So you want to add about 20 on that. 165 will do. That'll be our takeoff speed. Let's arm the auto throttle and flight director while we're here. You wouldn't think when you're sitting in the back of an aircraft, getting all your stuff out your bag, what you're going to read on the flight. You wouldn't think what the pilots are going through up here, would you? It's absolutely crazy. You just think they get in and press autopilot and off they go, but sadly, that's not the case. Now the ILS at Melbourne, I'll punch that in now, is 109.30, which is set. We don't need to do that. We can do that while we're in flight. We also need to set the cabin pressure at 25,000, which is now set. And let's get the correct lights on. We're on steady. That's fine. Don't need to worry about anything else. Okay, so before we begin engine startup, we're going to need to disconnect ground power. To do that, we're going to have to start our APU. Now, remember, with GSX, if you want a GSX pushback, then you can't have your engines running. Okay, so we'll start the APU. And that's the exhaust temperature there. We're going to keep our eye on that. Everybody's... Okay, we can shut those cargo doors now. FS actions, doors. Next page, let's close the cargo doors. Don't need any of that. You can see the sun just starting to rise. It's going to be a nice takeoff. Back to the overhead. You see the frame rate's picked up. That's because it's not night time and some of the lights have gone off. The lighting seems to kill your frame rate. It's quite interesting how it all works. Okay, so the exhaust is coming down now. We need to get that on about 4 or so. So the APU is on, which means we can connect. Sorry, we need to connect to APU bleed, isolation valve, open. That's my mistake. APU power. We've got APU power yet? I don't think we have. Let me just go through my check procedures. Blue, click twice. I think we do have APU power actually. We'll soon find out by disconnecting ground power. FS actions, doors, sorry. FS actions, ground connections, remove ground power. Yep, we still have power, that's good. Okay, so we want to put this to off. That's fine. APU bleed needs to be on, which is fine. Yep, isolation valve. Cool, recirculation's off. Right, we are ready to start an engine. So if you remember, it's down here. We turn, that's the right engine, that's the left engine, right engine. And in order to see the display a little bit easier, we'll press E and G to put the display up here. You can see engine 2 there, just firing up. It's going to hit 20 and I'm going to kick it into life. That should start engine 2, you can see it spinning up. And then we'll request a pushback shortly. Now what we can do, enable 220 knots at, yeah. Enable 220 knots at mellow, okay. It's a warning. We'll have a chat to the ground crew. And we are going to not request a taxi. We want to depart north, but I want to request a GSX taxi, not that one. So I'll have to request takeoff clearance separately. Engine 2 is now fired up. Let's fire up engine 1. Wait till that gets up to 20, then we'll kick it off, and then we can turn off the APU. Okay. These lights here, you can get like a bloom effect that you can turn off, and that'll help your frame rates if you're struggling for frame rates. Let's go to the overhead. This will click back in a second. That means engine 1 is fired. And then we can start. There we go. So now we can just turn the APU off. Duh, I should have done that first. Basically I made a mistake there. I should have flicked that onto engine power before I turned off the APU. That may have reset the FMC, I hope not. Let's have a look. No, it's not. Cool. Right, circulation on. Auto, let's turn these off. Close the isolation valve, and we are now on engine power. Awesome. Yaw damper on. Okay, now we can start requesting a pushback. I just realised I didn't do a GSX pushback before I started my engines. So after saying I was going to do a GSX pushback, we now can't. Not to worry. My mistake. Still making them in this game. Let's remove the wheel chocks, and we'll just go for a standard taxi to, we're on a north departure. So this is built into FSX. It's just kind of cool watching the GSX pushback. Runway 19er, don't want 19er. Do not want 19er. Tune to Brisbane ground again, see if we can get a different runway. No, it's not letting us. Okay. It's not letting us do that. FSX has locked us into that now. Don't seem to be able to choose a different taxi. It's fine. Okay, let's see which direction we're going. We're going that way, so we want to push back and to the left ideally. So just before we do that, let's get some lights turned on here. So the before taxi checklist. Engine start, isolation valve, auto brake needs to be on RTO. That's this one here. And that one to RTO, which is rejected takeoff. Flight controls. Let's try the rudder. Yeah, all flight controls are working. Ground equipment appears to be clear. We'll put the taxi lights on now. And we'll have our logo light on because it looks kind of cool. And we will get a pushback. Just remove that jetway. Double check I closed all of the doors. Which I did. Lovely sunrise. Look at that colour. Look at that colour. You see the light levels are really picking up now. Okay. Release parking brakes. So the GSX pushback is better than this because it actually brings in a vehicle to that you can see to physically do it. It's other than that, it's the same thing. It's just a nice to have. but it does require you to have the engines off before you request it, which is kind of annoying, to be honest. I mean, normally you would begin a pushback and then start the engine at the same time. You need to obviously make sure there are no ground crew nearby when you start the engines. But nevertheless. Okay, right. What have we got here? 165, arm the throttle. Flight directors on. Looks good from that point of view. Let's go back a little bit more. Okay, I think that should just about do it. We'll stop here. Okay. Looks like we're fairly clear. Now this is going to taxi us to the wrong runway, so that's a little bit unfortunate. We want runway 01. We're still going to have to ask for clearance out of 01. What a view. Right, I'm going to see if I can find runway 01. I believe it's straight down here and to the right. So the aircraft taxiway is ahead of us. Just checking for other aircraft. Looks fairly clear at the moment. Yeah, it wants us to go left, you see, but we're not. We're going to go right for runway 01. Obviously the sun's over there and it's rising, which means that's east. If you remember, we're taking off north. So simplistically, if we turn right here, we're going to be heading south to get to the bottom of the runway so that we can head north on takeoff. I'm guessing my mistake was to ask for a takeoff north, and what it actually meant was takeoff from the north. Which is kind of confusing. Texture on the floor here isn't that great, is it? So I'm using Orbx Oceania, which is the scenery pack for Oceania, which obviously includes Australia and New Zealand. So it's not standard FSX texture on the ground. Not quite sure why this airport is so low texture at all. It's pretty nasty. It's not like this in other airports. On often, you see the distance over there, front, just left of the screen. Looks like a Qantas, is it? Possibly a 747. It makes sense if it was Qantas, because Qantas is the local operator in Australia. The national operator, I believe. While we're doing this, let's just have a look at the scenery around Brisbane Airport. So I have scenery packs for Brisbane and Melbourne. This is Brisbane, obviously. Probably very accurate, but I have no idea. I've never been to either airport. Oh, look at that. Lovely detail though, isn't it? Wicked view. Don't see many aircraft. I hate it when it does that. It kind of, you flick back to your cockpit and it spends ages just loading textures and stuff. You'll notice, you watch when we take off out of this airport, the frame rate will climb quite a bit. I don't believe we're at runway 01 just yet. I think we want to go further south. I think we have to go left and right here. Check there's nothing coming. That's the runway in front of us there. But we don't want this takeoff point. We want to go all the way to the south of it. Might get away with it in a light aircraft, but I don't think you'd get away with it in a 737. Okay, so when we get to the bottom here, we'll have to hold short and try and convince the air traffic control to give us a takeoff at runway 01. I don't know if it'll let us do it yet. Brisbane Tower. Nope. It's just it doesn't appear to be a way of breaking out of this problem. ATIS is just the weather information. No, it's really strange. It seems like as soon as you've chosen a progressive taxi, that's it. It's locked in. Wind 159 at 9, greater than 20 miles visibility, sky condition few clouds at 4,000, temperature 22, ILS runway 19 in use. That means somebody's landing in on runway 19. Of course, in real life, you can't do this. You can't, you'd have to do what the air traffic control tells you. Just because you decide you fancy taking out a runway 01 like I do, doesn't mean so you can. You're just not allowed. That simple. Okay, so on the left of us now is runway 01. I'm just going to hold short here. And we are going to go for strobe lighting. Landing lights. Taxi lights on. Wing light we don't need. Don't need any de-icer. Cabin pressure set correctly. Everything is set how it should be in regards to this. 25,165 climb. Auto throttle is enabled. We could head a course of 010 if we wanted to. Flaps. Flaps of 5 are set. We'll pull round to the runway and see if we can get any kind of final chance to try and get some runway clearance, but otherwise we're just going to go. See, my frame rate is improving already. Just because I'm nowhere near that airport. Look at the shine on the ground, that's really strange. Don't see any aircraft. Okay, we are now at runway 01. Line up the centre. Like so. Just hold short. Parking brake. Can we convince them? Request a VFR takeoff. 19. Was I wrong all along? This is runway 01. Takeoff from runway 19er. Okay. Right, let's throttle up to 40%, check the engines. Engine power is looking stable. Engage the toga. Release the parking brake. Remember, not long after we take off, we're going to be banking right. And hopefully I'll get a nice frame rate then. Because right now my frame rate sucks. Just too much scenery going on, I think. 100 knots. 120. 30. V1. Rotate. We are climbing. See if I can get you a view. The gears coming up, which is always kind of cool. Let's bring the flaps up a little bit. Start to head to the right. Get rid of that. It's not very happy about what I just did. Those noises are the flight sim commander dinging because we're passing various nav points. Let's increase our speed now. Flaps a little bit. Still flying manually at the moment. I think we'll begin banking right very shortly. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm following this. See these purple pink lines there? That's our flight director. Showing us the flight plan. That often gets a little bit confused. If you don't do exactly what it says, it kind of gets its knickers in a little bit of a twist. So I'm banking right. And that's Melbourne, as we're leaving it. There's the airport over there. Sorry, Brisbane. Melbourne, Brisbane. Pick up some altitude now. And we'll engage the autopilot and have a quick look. Okay, autopilot is now engaged. Let's reset the auto brake and have a quick look outside. Very cloudy day. The date is actually set to today in the world clock thing, but I've not got active weather turned on. I've got sort of slightly cloudy weather turned on, but because it's February, it should be summer over there. Over in Brisbane. The sun is up. Okay, so we're going to start our ascent shortly. So we've got a flight speed of 223 at the moment. Now we still need to leave all of our lights turned on. We can turn our taxi light off, but the landing lights stay on until we hit 10,000. Then they come off. Other than that, we could admire the view over Brisbane. Didn't realise it was quite such a green area. I'm not really sure what I expected, to be honest, but certainly when you get down towards Melbourne you can see that it's more arid or dry, although people say that it rains in Melbourne quite a lot. I don't really know about the Australian weather systems. I don't know. I know about the UK, obviously. I know where it's dry and where it's wet and all the rest of it, but I don't know anything about the Australian weather systems. But I can see from this scenery that... See, this kind of reminds me... This kind of reminds me of London in a way, because you've got the estuary where all, you know, the docks are and stuff. And then the river comes in, as it does in London, and kind of twists. A lot like London, just meanders like this. And then you get skyscrapers along... Well, not skyscrapers. I suppose they are in London. Not quite American skyscrapers, but the office buildings are quite tall in London. Well, this is so flat. I mean... Because the landmass, it's a bit like North America. The landmass is so big. You get these enormous flat expanses that we just don't get in the UK. What is that? Looks like a stadium. Let's have a look inside, see what we're up to. Okay, we're at 11,000 now, so people can go to the bathroom if they so choose. Take our landing lights off. We'll turn our logo light off for now. And that's that. We are out of Brisbane. We'll bring up our progress. You can see we are 741 nautical miles to Melbourne and 44 nautical miles to the top of our climb. Then we'll hit our cruise altitude, 25,000. So we'll speed this up a little bit now. You see that the view distance is still quite big. You can still see where we took off from, the coast. We're just about coming over the cloud level. "30 nautical miles till we hit the ceiling." If only real life was like this. If only you could just jump into an aircraft and just go, simulation speed times 8 please, I don't want to sit in this aircraft for 3 hours. I'd rather it feel like an eighth of that. If only. Nobody's yet invented a time accelerator. I like this view because it's kind of like over the shoulder of an eagle or something. It's kind of cool. I think we've hit our ceiling now. Yeah. $25,000. That's fine. So now it says TD. That's top of descent. 580 nautical miles before we then begin our descent down into Melbourne.